Juan Gorman, Pen of the Independence. The Mexican Revolution began in 1910 with a political revolt against President Porfirio Diaz. This spurred a decade-long civil war, led by a number of charismatic individuals whose personal political agendas frequently determined the course of the revolution. When the Mexican Revolution ended in 1920, Diaz had been overthrown and a new government came into rule, which will eventually establish a new era for Mexico and its newly empowered people. And one of the ways planned to do this was through art. The murals were usually painted with themes glorifying the Mexican Revolution, recalling Mexico's early pre-Hispanic heritage and promoting the ideals of the new government. In order to create murals, the government employed some of the best Mexican artists of the day. Mexican muralism was the promotion of mural painting starting in 1920s. Began as a government-funded form of public art, specifically large-scale wall paintings in civic buildings. In this wake of the Mexican Revolution in 1920. It was headed by the big three painters, Diego Rivera, José Clemente Orozco, and David Alfaro Siqueiros. In the late 1920s, Orozco painted the first murals in the United States at Pomona College in Claremont. Most of the mural art from the United States was less proactive than the Mexican muralist. It was the U.S. attitude toward public art that in part allowed the employment of los tres grandes by public institutions. In the United States during the 1930s, the influence of the Mexican muralist and socially rebellious movement continues to this day. Juan Gorman, Mexican architect and painter, influenced by the muralist movement. He was born in Coyoacán, Mexico in 1905 and studied architecture, but very soon he was attracted by the muralist movement. Under the influence of Diego Rivera, he dedicated himself to painting. He used a template. He also used fresco. In the mid-1930s, Juan Gorman began to focus on painting, typically creating historical and nationalistic narratives in both easel paintings and murals. His major works in Mexico City included murals at the Mexico City airport during the time of 1937 to 1938, which were removed in 1939 because of their anti-clerical and anti-fascist character. Gorman also made fresco murals, which mosaics of natural stones and glass and precast slabs with historical and scientific themes. Pen of the Independence. The mural was made between 1960 to 1961, and it contains various characters from the colonial period and the protagonists of the independence movement. This mural is divided in 4 parts. In this work, you can identify more than 80 prominent figures of independence, including Miguel Hidalgo y Costilla, José María Morelos, Ignacio Allende, Juan Ignacio Aldama, José Ortiz de Domínguez, Vicente Guerrero, and Servando Teresa de Mier. It also represented the Spanish indigenous, the high clergy, intellectuals, and in first plane, 10 ethnic groups with their characteristic clothing. On the left, the artist represented the light of New Spain, in which imaginary characters are mixed with viceroys and bishops of the late 28th century and mid-19th century. Also, indigenous groups are observed under exploitation conditions. The second section represents 14 portraits of the Creoles who were the ideological and political precursors of the movement, among which stand out Jesuit intellectuals, writers, philosophers, priests, engineers, and men of science. In the third and fourth sets, to the center and right of the composition, are the protagonists of the insurgent struggle, mixed with some castes. Figures such as Hidalgo or Morelos are portrayed twice because one of the images corresponds to the official iconography surprised since the mid-19th century, while the other represents these characters as civilians. In the center of Retablo de la Independencia, Juan Gorman painted different characters of the town victims of exploitation, hunger, and death. In one segment, he captured an Indian crucified and raised by an insurgent Ignacio López Rayón. In the background, the various landscapes appears with imaginary cities and real buildings, such as the Alhóndiga de Granaditas, the main college of the Aqueduct of Los Remedios, which draw the horizon line that passes from the colonial night to the independent sunrise. The fourth and last part of the mural shows the Apatzingán Congress and the taking of Acapulco. This mural is located in Museo Nacional de Historia, Castillo de Chapultepec, Mexico. Now let's talk about the elements of art. We see contrast in the background with the birds, landscapes, and change of colors. We see pattern in flags, rhythm, and men fighting for their homeland. Iconography, weapons, knives that will help them protect themselves from fighting. In January 17, 1982, Gorman was found dead, hanging from a tree in the yard of his first functionalist home. I decided to make my art from the Mexican flag and fire. The Mexican flag represents war, revolution, and anger. The green side represents independence and hope. The white, Catholicism and unity. Red, unity and spilled blood. Blood that was left by the heroes that defended Mexico.